Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Zoom Test Kitchen. I'm Jeff Widgren, your host, and we meet here every Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern. We're live streaming to our YouTube channel, Zoom Test Kitchen, and also make recordings available there, along with our Discord channel, provides a link when this meeting has concluded. That gives you the opportunity to see the recording Zoom style. It's shared from the Zoom cloud, which a little different experience with the chat and live transcript and so forth. So pick your passion. But welcome, everybody. If you've got a camera and want to turn it on, go ahead and get that camera on so we can see you and say hello. Hello, Serena. Got Mike, Marty, Bill, Mark, David, myself, somebody else. Gerald is there, and so forth. So anyways, I thought we'd spend some time showing you the process of the way I do it anyways, with Canva, building Stream Deck buttons, companion buttons, graphically, but not exclusively graphics, right? It can be a combination of graphics and dynamic text that is being plugged into those buttons as well. So I know David does this for sure. Don't know who else does, but feel free to chime in. This isn't just me and this is how I do it and this is the way it needs to be done by any stretch. I used to be a Photoshop guy and still am, but I've been trying to really leverage the benefits of Canva, and it definitely has some benefits as far as being able to build libraries and be able to re-reference them, quickly duplicate them and make small changes and so forth. So it's really flexible that way. Anyways, David, how are you?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
Good.
By the way,
Well.
at some point I would love for us to test out the new live audio thingy dingy, the new option that's there. I've never tried it.
I have not either. Yeah, we can do that on the fly. I'm not sure that, do we what we're looking for. Are we looking for lower latency?
That's what it's supposed to be,
beyond the original
right?
sound, and do you need live instruments to really get the benefit? I might have to have you bust out your guitar, David.
Oh yeah,
and give
absolutely.
it a shot. That would be cool. Very good. Well, let me start by taking a look at the Stream Deck page that I've shown before, and that is a pretty minimal panel, if you will, as far as all the functions that ZoomOSC does. This is really kind of the critical ones that get used the most during a meeting. But just to just review this, and here I'll select myself and I'll add a spotlight, and quickly pops that up. So you can see it a little bit better, but with that is taking a look at the buttons and distinguishing the ones that are all graphics and the ones that are combinations of dynamic text and graphics as well. So if we take a look at button number 1 on the top left, I'm going to go over here to my ISO machine that currently doesn't have. I'll start the video, which there is none, but it thinks it has a camera. So I'll go back there and and what changed. As a matter of fact, let me represent this a different way so you can see it while I do it. I'll go to ISO now. Okay. So now I'm going to turn the camera off and the text dynamically changed to add a camera off or cam off indicator above the name of the participant ZoomISO. If I turn it back on, that goes away. And so that is an example of a combination button that has some graphics and some dynamic text. And as a matter of fact, if I went to, let's go here. If I go to that button in Companion, now we're in Companion, and changed the, copy that code real quick, and change the color, you'll see that the bottom portion of the button is transparent. So the color that we assign dynamically to the button, such as I'll do the Jeff Widgren button number 2. If I select, it changes the background to purple, and deselect it and so forth. So the graphic stays the same across the top. The text is dynamic. That doesn't require transparency. That's just text on top of whatever the background would be. The background could be a graphic, but in this case, the background below the header of the number 1 in the reddish bar is transparent, so that we can take advantage of the color code of the button changing based on companion feedback commonly, so that we can understand visually the state of the button versus the text. And you can't represent both at the same time. So if I select it, it turns it green. If I deselect it, in this case, I changed it to yellow a moment ago manually, but it would go back to the blue, which I'll set that back. There we go. All right. So, but that is a select, deselect indication, where if it's not an if, it's I wanted to be able to see whether the camera was on or off as well. And so I chose to represent that with a change of text, the insertion of the cam off, and the background I'm using for the indication of whether they're selected or not. And you can change whole graphics as well. If you if I take that ZoomISO machine and raise its hand, I'll raise the hand and go back, you'll see that so now I have the background graphic, or the background color, coming from Companion on a select or deselect. I have the cam off or not inserted if the camera's off or on. And I also have the hand on top of it as well. Now, so what we've determined here is the top is a graphic. The rest of the bottom is transparent. And the hand and the top is a graphic. But that's 2 different graphics. There is a complete file change that takes place. And so if I go to Canva, I thought I had it already open, apparently not. In Canva, you'll see that I have the number 1 without a hand, but I also have a number 1 button built with a hand as well, because there's no way to, right now anyways, in Companion, there's not a way to overlay a graphic on top of a graphic. There's a button will host a single graphic file, period. And, and so I had to
Jeff,
duplicate that, but add a hand. Yeah, David.
Is that so I was going to ask a separate question, but now that you said that, I'm wondering, Because, for example, I mean, oh God, my camel like died on me. Sorry, I can't show that. Can't you add in feedback multiple feedbacks with multiple pings?
You can define them, but they're listed top to bottom, right? This
Right.
one,
So that
then
was
that
going to
one.
be my question then.
The last one wins.
Wait, the last one or are these like layers? So the top one
Well, they're not.
will always be
I don't
on
want to
top?
say they're layers. They are layers, but they are replaceable. They're layers that replace the other one, and so
In which
I don't
order?
believe
Which one replaces which one?
top to bottom. So if the last feedback condition is true, that's the one that's going to display. If the previous one was displaying, it will disappear with the last one becoming true.
Gotcha. Okay. So because that's not like, that's unlike the way you sort of build things in Photoshop or Canva, where the top layer is the one that is the prominent one. It's the reverse of that.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, you learn in Companion. I learned it as I went along, and that was, I say I want four feedback pieces. One to recognize whether the mic is on, and one to recognize the camera, one to recognize if their hand is raised, and so forth. And it wasn't my original thought, but eventually I'm like, man, I would love to, along the bottom of these buttons, have a small icon that's a microphone, and then next to it a camera, and then next to it a hand raised or whatnot. And with that there was this kind of instant feeling of frustration because one always replaced the other. And so anyways, those are the rules. Those are the boundaries right now. There is a project going on right now with Companion. That will allow us to actually support that. James has been working on that code and testing it, and even tested it on a show. I don't think they've released it quite yet, but I may be sitting on it and don't even know it, but I don't think so. To where we can get a value back, which basically, gives us an answer to the mic is live, but the camera's down, or the camera's up, but the mic is down, and so forth. And then we can pick which graphic. And so, but it still takes multiple graphics, one of each combination of, kind of mic, camera, hand, and so forth. And then it will display that graphic. So it's not the overlay of transparent icons, working in conjunction with each other yet, but it is a step closer.
But if you create a graphic where everything is transparent, like you have here, where everything is transparent except for the hand, and you put that underneath a color feedback, then that will overlay with transparency on top of. So you could create a graphic with a hand raised in the top. Well, I mean, you don't really need this because it does it for you, but with a hand raised in the top right, with the background transparent. You create another one with a microphone in the top left and everything transparent. And you could just layer those. And as long as the background is transparent,
yeah, but
it should just layer on top of each other. No,
I don't know this for fact at the granular layer of saying I've seen what the code does, but it takes code to make something happen. And what I know happens is even though it's a transparent graphic, it replaces the previous graphic. It doesn't lay it on top so you can see through the transparency the previous graphic that was there. And that's That's the challenge point.
I guess the reason I'm asking, so I'm speaking right now. So I'm on mine, I'm blue. And if let me just zoom in a little bit. And I've got so I've got blue on top, and then underneath I've got a ping of the hand raised.
Yep.
And so now if I raise my hand, I'll jump up to the top left, but that ping sits on top of the blue. That doesn't replace the blue.
No, but the blue is a background color of the button. It's not a graphic. It's not a graphic file that's blue.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's where I was confused.
That's why you can use in conjunction textual changes, background color changes if you're using transparency, and a graphical change. And so it's like there's maximum of 3 indicators that can work in conjunction. And I would suspect one day that will improve, but as we know it right now, those are our limitations. So that's that button, and everything that kind of goes into that. There's several buttons, the actual, actionable buttons, if you will. This is Canva. Let me go back to Companion here. And when we get to, these actionable buttons, all the ones with the green headers that are their actions taken on the individuals who are selected. And so all the greens, if I hit mute, it would mute all the green buttons, and the alls. I don't have to select anybody. That will just lower all hands or mute all participants or clear all spotlights. And so I've used the header, the graphical part of the header, the color as a visual indicator of all, green visual indicator of selected, and and then just some others. Those were the 2 biggies as far as grouping. So that was my approach. But these are 100% graphic, and there's no dynamic text in them. Now, there's an exception to that in the clear all selected attendees, and then the spotlights as well. So as I select those 3 individuals, for instance, you can see that the the selected on this button is a graphic in the header. The add spotlights that's a graphic, but then the bottom is dynamic text that's literally being put up there by Companion. And now that doesn't have to be transparent, because it's not anything that needs to shine through. So if on this button, for instance, the background is designated on Companion, let's go to this one.
Can you share the code for how you got the number of like active people on stage and stuff like that?
Yeah. The background's black. I make it red. As a matter of fact, I forgot that this is transparent. I don't take advantage of the transparency on this button, although I did save it that way, which I did not recall. But it's really not necessary to be transparent to be able to see that text. This is new. If I mouse over the color selection without even clicking on the mouse, I'm just floating over it. It changes the button color on the fly. I've never noticed that before. Huh. So I'll set that back to black. The code to get this dynamic here is says number of callers here, and this is the variable that's built into OSC behind the scenes that keeps track of the number of selected individuals. And so it's called selected number of callers is what it's named. But anywhere you put this, it's going to output the value of that variable. And and so it's in the button text string, and the reason it's bottom and centered is this justification option here. It's on the bottom instead of, let's say, the top or the right or left and so forth. And so I've just placed it with justification, and it displays it there as it changes, as those selections change.
And how are you doing the number of people on stage?
Do I have that? Where is that?
Yeah, the number of spotlights when you have add spotlight in the bottom right.
Oh, on the bottom right. Yeah, the one that I'm on. Yeah, that's just the that's the number of, it's not tracking, it's not a live track of active spotlights. The number indicates the selections, the number of individuals that are selected. And so if you press add spotlights, it's going to do that for the selected people. There's 3 that are selected, and you can verify those 3 by looking at the 3 buttons that are highlighted. And so it's taking action on on those 3 selections. Not I mean, it could be those 3 spotlights, or if it was on the remove, it could be remove those 3 spotlights. If there were 6, it would just remove the 3 of the 6 and leave the other 3 remaining spotlit. But it's not an active tie to, hey, I know who is spotlit right now. We don't have that feedback right now. Although we've talked about it behind the scenes to see if we can get that indicated, because that'd be an icon I'd like to see on a button as well. I like to see the status of the mic, the camera, the hand raised or not. I'd like to see if they're spotlit or not, and it would help a lot. So anyways, that's that. So there's some combinations of that. Now there's let's see if I go, there's one other approach. I want to show it in review first, and then we can go spend some time in Canva to kind of work with all these combinations. So if I go to my vMix panel and take you there, there's one other combination that I think is important. It just adds a touch more creativity to the graphics creation. There's nothing new about this page, really. I mean, the headers graphically are there. This is a full graphic. This is almost a full graphic, but not quite, because the vMix is a graphic. The vMix logo is a graphic, but the background that's red is actually the background color of the button itself, based on the feedback. So if I go to the feedback here, you'll see that it says the tally state. If the input is in program in vMix, change the background color to red. If I changed it to yellow, you'll see that that's quite dynamic, because this input is in program right now. And so so there's transparency around the logo, but all the other portions, the top title and the logo itself, is a solid graphic. And so it lets us take advantage of that kind of live status as well. The other one is the microphone. Now, if I muted myself and unmute myself, you'll see that that's changing from red to green, whether I'm muted or unmuted. This has exactly the same concept, but I think it's a little tricky to see it right away, and is because the border is black, and with the border being black, I kind of think, well, that could be transparent. The black is solid graphic. The top title bar is solid graphic. The microphone in white is solid graphic, but the circle fill is transparent. And so if I go to the feedback here, you can see that for vMix feedback, it says, hey, if the input is muted, make it red. If the mic is live, make it green. I'll just change that to hot pink, and you can see that it's literally a color from Companion that's shining through the transparent circle fill area, not the white, not the black, but just the circle itself. So it's a little bit of a creative approach to where you don't have to create another graphic. You could create a mic with a line through it or not, or a green mic and a red mic, and you just have to swap graphics. Or you can use the same graphic the entire time, but use one like this that doesn't have a line in it, and then just do it transparent in the circle itself. So any questions about these combinations, if you will? And then we'll jump into Canva. And I'm no Canva expert. I mean, I feel like a novice sitting here with David in my presence, who teaches Canva and so forth every week. But with that, you got to get out there and give it a shot and share and take the challenge on. So I know a little, I know enough. I'm actually, I think I'm pretty good at Canva making Stream Deck buttons. All those, Canva's a whole lot more than that, but it's a great tool to build that library. All right, no questions. Hasmuk, how are you? Good to see you. Robert's here too. Goodness
I just have to
sakes.
say, I never.
Robert, it's like 10 or 11 o'clock your time at night, and you're all dressed up.
Yeah, we've just come back from a family outing, so
yeah. Very good.
With respect to you, I dressed up just for you, Jeff.
Yeah. Well, thank you. All right. Well, I had to put on my alternate dark shirt, but without my logo. They were not clean today. I forgot to check. Scott's joined us as well. Welcome, Scott. All right. Well, let's jump over to, let's do a quick lower all hands, get my hand down there, and let's jump over to Canva. All right. That's the one.
This is going to be like watching someone doing Excel. Everyone has his own ways, and you get irritated when you look at it because he's not doing it your way. You think it's not going to happen.
I know, right? Yeah, it's so true. There are so many ways to approach things, and I continue to frustrate myself doing things wrong. Like this small panel is just a single project, single design, if you will, for this kind of consumer version of the meeting manager, I call it. But the bigger one that really leverages like breakout rooms and ZoomISO panels and all that jazz, I've got it all busted up. I found out that there's hey, here, David, I'll give you a pop quiz. What's the maximum number of pages you can have in a single design in Canva?
It used to be 100. I believe it's 200 now. Or is it up to 300?
It's 3.
It's 300?
Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, I had no reason to research till I couldn't save that last button. And so I'd hit 300. And I'm like, well, I guess I need to break these up into, their different groups. And so then I had to figure out, how do I do that? How do you move all kinds of stuff you've got designed into different files? And I did folders as well, which I did not have to do, but I still have yet to clean that up. So part of it's organizational, part of it is just making it happen. So how many of you are in fact using Canva? I've got Robert, David, myself. Don't have any other videos on to get feedback on that. But anyways, it pretty popular program for sure. And I'm going to, let me pop this back up, go back to speaker view for the stream. And David,
just
chime
show
in.
something?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, don't pause or hesitate.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
So now, of course, every time I come to this show, you make me change everything. So, but I came up with something kind of creative here. So I'm adding the numbers so that if I, for example, if I grab a couple people and I, you can see now that I've got one person selected, and if I, if I'm choosing more than one, it'll change. All right. So, but what I added here is on this button right down here, I have the feedback, but the image that I created has a line through it already. So it's not perfect.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find it. It's in the 60s, I think. Oh, it's down here. So, right. So clear. So this is the button so clear selections. I want to have that red line through it. But I also want the number. But what's interesting is that, the red line doesn't go through it. It doesn't go over it, but I don't know. It's just, it kind of works. And then for on stage, I've got this, I have the stage at the bottom. So now the number sits on top of the stage. So I don't know, just now you have me playing around with all this stuff.
So did your number just happen to land on that stage? Because that oftentimes takes a little planning on, because you don't have a ton of flexibility on adjusting the text inside companion buttons. A little bit, but
you
not,
don't
not
at all, right? The up and down. So on this button right here, you can go. These are your three. You go middle, top. I've been lucky. I've done a little bit of planning, but on the stage, for example, that happens to be where I put the stage in this one. And the bottom at 30 point works. If I can almost never keep this on auto, because especially when it comes to names, I change all of these from auto because I find that auto will oftentimes make it too small. I'm old, I can't see. So I'd rather have it bigger and a little bit cut off or something like that than have it try and squeeze it all in there using auto.
Yeah. Auto, I don't think I use it at all anymore. Just especially with this kind of design in particular. You need it to, if I jump back to, and I didn't even talk about that. Like when I built my very first graphical button with this header across the top, I had to, the button itself, I've got 2 line breaks in front of it. I determined that it took 2 line breaks in front of it to move it down far enough. So if I take one out, well, that's not fair right now because the camera's off. Let me not edit this entry, but let me edit the feedback. That's the one providing it right now. So it's actually these two because it's inserting that cam off. If I take one of those out, you can see that the text is now too high, right? And so it scooted up. If you don't put a line break in there at all and just let it do its natural thing, then you can't work in combination with the text and the graphics. So I said, well, I want to do 2, and then it took me 2 or 3 versions of the graphic before I go, okay, that's the spot. That's how tall I can make the graphic so that the text, starts at the right in the same place every time. And so it's really a combination of measuring sticks, if you will.
It's also worth remembering that, and this is a major pain still, that you can't, maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have to now, if I want to change the way these look, I have to do that on every page that I have them. The actions I can grab from this page over here, but the graphic itself, you have to build it out everywhere that button exists, I think.
No, you don't. You'll be glad to know. You'll be glad to know, and that is, so if I let's just go back and, well, here, let me copy. I'm going to copy this one. So I'm going to copy this button, and we'll go back to just a blank page. I'm going to put it on the bottom right of this page. And so it has the graphic, it has the PNG that's associated to it. And it also has this, dynamic number count as well.
What I'm talking about is referencing.
No, that's what I'm setting up for. So this will be this will be the one we'll reference an unlimited number of times. And so I'll keep it on the same page for simplicity. And I'll say, I want this button, imagine it being on another page and another page and another page, but I want it to inherit the style of this button, so that if I ever need to make that change you talked about, I can change it in the source, at the source, which is on the bottom right corner, and it will instantly change the 6 other buttons that are referencing its style. And so if in this button I wanted to do just that, I can tell it create a button. And I really don't have to do any other definitions here, because I know I'm going to be referencing.
Can you show us the screen where you're the details part of the screen?
Oh yeah. Sorry. So I selected a blank area. Here, let me delete that real quick. So I selected that. I'm going to just go to create a button, which creates a blank button. I'm going to go to feedback, and in feedback, you go to the folder here, and it's an internal function. And so I can use another button's style. And so I'm going to select that. And then I can make choices. I can say, do I want to inherit the text? Yes or no. Font size, the PNG itself, text alignment, PNG alignment, the color, background, top bar, and image buffers. And the top bar is, if you toggle the top bar on or off, it'll even inherit that property of whether that top bar is on or off. And so I'm going to say, hey, inherit all of it, and leave it at that. Now it needs to know, well, which button do you want to inherit? In this case, it's going to be the same page. So I'm going to say from this page,
I'm sorry. Yeah. Can you just back up a second? Because mine looks different than yours. So you went into feed on the button where you want to add it.
Yeah, I created a blank button.
Yeah.
And
you did a feedback.
Go to the feedback tab.
Yep.
And I'll delete that. And so under the feedback, click on the folder over here, and then select internal. And it's that third option, use another button style.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Wow.
And I'll go ahead and accept that. Now I have to tell it which button do I want to inherit all this style from. It's on the same page, or it could be any other page in your Stream Deck, right? And point it to whatever page. And in this case, I want it to inherit button number 32. And if you ever have a question about that, just mouse over the button you want to inherit, and it says it's 4.32, which is page 4, button number 32.
Or you can just do this button if you have them in the same place.
In the drop down, this, if it's on the same page, this works just fine.
No, not if it's on the same page. If it's on the same location on a different page.
Yeah, so I use this page, correct.
Right.
If it's this page, this button, you'd be inheriting yourself. But you can, this reference is always kind of on this page. And yes, in fact, this button. And so in this case, I'm going to say 32 on this page, and you can see it instantly takes that. Now I'm going to on my Stream Deck, I have you selected, and I'm going to deselect you, and you can see that both of those dynamic numbers work on the fly as I select or deselect people on my Stream Deck, and it's 100% inherited. So now I'm going to copy this button and paste it, copy, paste it, copy, paste it. Imagine that being 4 different pages on your Stream Deck that are all referencing this one source button, and you decide, I need to make a change. And so you go to this, and the variable will be the easiest way to show a change, but I go to this variable up top, and it indicates the number that are selected right now. Well, instead of parentheses, I'm going to use square brackets, and I'll change those square brackets, and you can see every one of those buttons instantly changed as well with that reference. So it's very, very powerful. There's no question. Now, so that's what I would call a pull relationship. I'm going to pull from you your style. You also said you can do it with actions as well, because what this doesn't do is inherit the actions associated with this button up to this point, right? And so this button, it does have actions, and because it adds a spotlight, it sets the step in companion, it sets the gallery view, and then it has a long hold set of actions as well, which is to unmute, spotlight, lower the hand, and then set the gallery view. What if I wanted all these buttons to also do that? And you can do that as well. So if but that part isn't naturally inherited. It's a style inheritance. And then it will be more of a push assignment that says, when I push this button, I'm not going to define any actions, but I'm going to tell this button to push that button. And so those 4 other pages that are referencing or inheriting from that same button can also be told, push that button remotely, so that they all do the same exact thing. And so with that, you can go to actions, and you can do a press action. It's an internal process again. And I have to go find this one. What's it called, David? Trigger press. It's a button, trigger press. Yeah. Is it that? Yeah.
You mean to reference another?
Yeah, I'm going to do button trigger press, or I could do press and release, actually.
It's a trigger press and release.
Yeah. So I'll take the press out and go press and release. And so that's the only action these buttons need is this one action that says trigger press and release. It says from what page? In this case, it happens to be the same page, so I'll leave that on this page. But the button is, again, it's number 32. And at that point, whether let's see, I've got myself. Who else is on camera real quick that I can spotlight? Let me look. So I got Robert, Mike, David, and Jeff. So I'm going to select Jeff, David, Robert, and Mike, and I'm going to press the original button, on the bottom right corner here, I'll use the test button to spotlight all 4. Now I'm going on my Stream Deck real quick. I'm going to cheat and just do clear all spotlights. But now I'm going to press this referenced button. It's inheriting style, and it's remotely pressing a button for actions. And if everything goes right, we will all still be spotlit appropriately. So now maybe you did what I did and you drew out 4 buttons on 4 different pages before you were really done. And so I'm going to highlight this button, Command C, Command V, Command V, Command V. And now if I clear the spotlights and I press button 3, it will re-spotlight us as well, because we copied that reference of pushing those buttons remotely. So yeah, great point. I mean, that's one thing that, I know David and I have seen it time and time again, where we end up with multiple pages that do have their specific purposes, but they also have kind of the standing row or two of buttons, such as spotlighting, muting, unmuting, and so forth, that are really consistent across each of those pages. And through the, we create a kind of, it's not a hidden page, but it's another page that's behind the scenes that hold all the masters, if you will, both for style and actions. And then on the primary repetitive pages, we just simply reference those buttons for actions and style so that we can more easily make changes. So if, for instance, even on the action side, we demoed it on the style side, if we needed to change, what can I do that's easily seeable? So if I press and hold for half a second, it will it'll unmute, spotlight, lower the hand, and so forth. So I'm going to disable the lowering the hand, and okay. So here, I'm not going to do that first. So guys, I'm going to unspotlight you, and I want you to raise your hands, and then I'll re-spotlight all of us, okay? And right now, you should come on unmuted with your hand lowered and be spotlit. All right, so here we go. Let's go ahead and raise your hands. Okay, now I'm going to press that button, and you're all spotlit, but your hands remain up, which I thought I did that. Oh, I did a short press. That got it. Hang on, stay still. I had to do a long press.
Yeah, okay. I'm unmuted.
There we go.
Yeah. Well.
So a quick press on this button is just a spot. A long press, half second, is a unmute, lower hand, and spot. and it just depends on what you want as a result, right? And so with that, now I'm going to, well, let me test this on a second button that inherit or remotely pushes the button. I'll clear you. Go ahead and raise your hands again. And I'll test it. Oh, I did a short press again. Daggone it. Do a long press. There we go. Long press. Hands are, oh, that still came out. I wonder if the test button doesn't measure how long you press it. That's pretty possible. But I'll do it through the emulator here in a second. Let me clear the spots. I've got an emulator on this other screen. But of course, I can't get to this extra page. I might have to hang on a second. If I set emulator 1 to page 4. Okay, now I can simulate it. So I'm going to okay. Yeah, I got to see where I left this. Did I leave it on? Thought I had it off. Lower hand, yeah. The long press it seems to only be reactive from the physical Stream Deck, and I'm limited to getting to that page at the moment, which sounds kind of crazy, but because I chose to use the maximum number of buttons, I don't have that kind of up and down, option on my physical Stream Decks. Anyways, that I think it's a great reference. If you getting into Stream Deck building or companion building these panels, and you've heard this and seen it, and maybe you won't remember exactly how to do it, but it can be done. It'll save you a ton of time. I mean, we've copied so many pages and so many buttons and just redoing when these references really pay off. Yeah, David. Yep, you're muted.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I have a challenge for you.
Okay.
All right. So I've got a button here called get. So these two buttons over here tell me which page I'm on. So if I were to switch to list, the list button is going to, let me get off that. The list button will turn red to have a red around it and so on and so forth. Now these are grabbing the actions from here, but I don't think that I can have I don't think that I can copy the style the same way we did before, because the feedback on these, I have to have the feedback on these buttons, I think, be specific to where we are, right? If this Stream Deck is on page 1, then use this ping. Did that make sense?
So it's you're saying you can. I think what we talked about earlier of feedback order of execution, top to bottom. If you did your reference first for style and then said, if it's on page 1, make it red, the red will get added to the inherited style. I'm almost positive. I haven't done that, but I'm pretty sure that behavior would hold true. So if you in fact inherited the style